So today we're going to talk about the sociological imagination. But before I get started, I want to first go over our learning objectives. And these are the things that I want you to be able to do after I'm done with my micro lecture today. So first, I want you to be able to define what the sociological imagination is. And it doesn't have to be word for word what is in your textbook. It can be in your own words. I just want you to have a general idea of what it is and why it's important. And then also I want you to be able to match it with the sociologist. So who came up with the sociological imagination? Second, I want you to apply the sociological imagination to a real life experience. So throughout this lecture, I'll be talking about my own experiences and maybe some that will relate to you. So at the end of the lecture, I want you to be able to apply it to your own life. And third, this was in your textbook, and I thought it was very interesting, so I decided to put it in here. How might the sociological imagination be useful to you in the future? You'll find out that the sociological imagination is an analytic tool that we sociologists use, but it's also a way of viewing the world that even non-sociologists can use, and I want you to be able to think about how this will apply to your life later, even if you aren't a sociology student. So first, this guy, C. Wright Mills, he is the one that came up with the term. He is a 20th century American sociologist. His main research interests were in social inequality and also the relationship between individuals and society. And he came up with the sociological imagination, which was a book that he produced in 1959. And this book talks about pretty much the relationship between individuals and society. So, how do we define it? Well, as I said before, it is a mindset that all great sociologists and social analysts have. It is a way that we view the world, it is our tool, and it's something that I want you to get familiar with as we go throughout the course. It is also, essentially, it allows us to understand how our individual personal troubles are connected to larger cultural and socio-historical forces and processes. So how you as a person, how your personal experiences relate to the society and the social trends that are happening around you. He made the distinction between your personal biography or your personal troubles and the history and public issues in society. So as I said, your personal troubles or your biography, that is you and yourself and your experiences. The history is the social trends in the society and how it's changed over time. So I know it's kind of hard to understand. Does anyone have any questions first before I go on? Okay. So I decided to put in a few pictures or graphs to help you understand this because sometimes words are just kind of confusing. So the sociological imagination, we have our biography, ourself, our society, and history. Here in the middle, this is really what sociological imagination is. It's the interplay between all three of these things. Another way that I like to think of it is the bird's eye view. This is my favorite way of looking at things. So you have something going on, and it's your own personal experience. But instead of applying individualistic characteristics to it, like it's your own fault, you can take a step back and look at things at a bird's eye. You can look at the society and how it relates to us. So my example relates to unemployment. So raise your hand if you have ever tried to apply for a job and for whatever reason you weren't able to get it. Okay. So I have also had an experience like that. My experience, though, I was a teenager. I wanted to get money to go to movies and pay for gas and insurance and things like that. So I just wanted a job to earn something. It didn't matter what it was, if it was minimum wage. So I applied for jobs. I applied to Walmart and Big Lots and McDonald's, pretty much any restaurant or store where I lived, and I couldn't get a job. Not from a single place. So if I'm looking at this from the biographical from personal troubles standpoint, it could be my fault. There's something wrong with me. That's why I didn't get my job. It could be Maybe I suck at making applications, and they noticed that and they just discarded it. But if I'm not the only one that wasn't able to get a job in my community, maybe it wasn't my issue. Maybe it was a public issue. And that's where the sociological imagination comes in. We step back from our personal troubles and we see the social trends. So when I was trying to get hired, it was right after the Great Recession, around 2012. I'm not going to say how old I was. And unemployment rates were high. So that's what this graph shows. The red is the total amount. So this is about 2012. And it's about 7%-ish total. For women 20 years and older, and I was not 20 at the time, that's the dark blue here, still pretty high. White, because I'm white, also pretty high, it's around 8%. So, and if we compare that to now, which is 2020, it's around 3%. So that means that during the time that I was trying to get a job, the unemployment rate was high, many places weren't hiring. It could have been just because of that reason, or because of the Great Recession, we're trying to bounce back as our economies. Could also be looking at this, 16 to 19-year-olds, that's about my age. You can see that it is so much higher in 2012 for unemployment. It's around 25%. So again, my age could have affected it, but instead of it just being me, it was all 16 and 19-year-olds. It could have also been where I was from. So I'm from a rural community here in Athens County. We have one Walmart, not 15 like Columbus or any other major city. So the jobs that are here are limited. So that could have affected it. And that's really what the sociological imagination is. You're taking your own experience and seeing how society shapes it. Another example that I think we can all relate to is college. And this is a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it, but I want you to think about it. Why did you choose to come to college? And I want you to think of this first using your biography. So why did you decide here? What personal motivations made you come here? And then second, we'll look at the history. So, I'll give you a second. Do we have a few ideas in our head? All right. So here are some pretty common answers. The first one is to learn, right? You want to come to college, you want to learn. That's fine, but you could also learn online. So why do you need to come to college to do this? You could learn on your own time. You don't need to go to class. I'm not encouraging that you don't come to class. But fair point, right? We maybe go to college because we want to get a degree, right? That's important. Degrees give us credentials. And credentials categorize us. That could be a potential thing. And you need to get credentials to get a good job, right? So you're going to college to get a good job. It used to be, historically, that you didn't need to get a college degree to get a good job. It used to be before World War II, you could go anywhere with a high school diploma and get a good middle class, middle wage job. I hope that's still working. It could also be, but after we deindustrialized and all the manufacturing jobs went away, now we need more college degrees to be able to afford to get jobs, to afford housing and health care, in order to make a decent living in our society. So maybe you chose to go to college because your parents pressured you. Well, that's also normal in our society. More and more individuals are enrolling in college now. This is a social trend. From 1967 to 2011, we see a positive increase. So more students, female and male, are enrolling in college now. In fact, females have almost doubled from 1967 to 2011. So even though in this room there are more females students, I can imagine that in 1967 this room would have looked very different. Would have had much less females. Also, the society that we live in, the nation that we live in affects it. So the United States of America has more enrollments than places like France and Germany. And that's because each society has different resources and economies and institutions and values. And the values are what pressure us to choose how we choose and what we choose. So, to recap, are there any questions first? Okay. So to recap, C. Wright Mills is the one that introduced us to the sociological imagination. And it's one that we will continue to use throughout the semester as we talk about things like inequality, stratification, criminality. It is the analytic tool that sociologists use to view the world. And it is the interplay between individual troubles and history. The examples that I provided you with today were unemployment and college. So before I let you go, I'm going to do an end of class assignment. For this assignment, I want you to think about sociological imagination and jot a few things down on a piece of paper. This will count as your participation for the day. It'll be about 4 to 5 sentences, not that much. So first I want you to define it in your own words. After going through this, I just want to make sure that you have an understanding and a good understanding of what this is because we'll be using it a lot. Second, I want you to think of something that is shaped by personal troubles and society. The examples that I've provided include the college you chose, so why here at OU, whether you drink coffee or tea, whether or not you vape, the social media that you use, and whether or not you have tattoos. These are a few examples, but there are plenty of examples outside of this too. So basically I want you to define the sociological imagination, discuss the concept that is shaped by personal troubles and public issues, and then I want you to describe what those personal troubles and public issues are. Are there any questions? All right, so I will let you get started on that, and then once you're done, drop off the papers at the front and you are free to leave.